Morning, folks. I'll give you a wee minute to get on board. Marlene, I'll get you your comments shortly. I can't change pages at the moment, Marlene. Right, good morning, folks. Numbers are rising nicely. Hey, I've got a couple of announcements to make before we get started. Okay, but I'll wait until we get to the requisite 100 viewers before I get underway. Okay. Morning, Julie. Morning, David. David was a wee bit worried I wasn't getting out this morning because sometimes I'm a bit tired of putting up the fact that I'm going to make sure it's correct enough, you know. Yeah, the Scotland Effect. Hello, Davey, and all Indy crew. Hello, the Scotland Effect. Right, we're up over 100 marks, so let's get this broadcast underway. Indy Tuck, Davey, out the truck and in the house, in his office in Salisbury, North Lanarkshire, where it is clear at the moment, extremely warm today for November, 13 degrees. They're predicting records to be broken today for the temperature in Scotland for November. It looks like climate change is actually happening. Well, it's got to do with stagnant weather patterns at the moment and the slow down the jet stream, but we don't want to get into technicalities of it. That's the weather forecast for Salisbury, North Lanarkshire. If you want to know what the weather forecast is like where you are, look out your rain, bloody windy. All right, to say a couple of public service announcements before we get underway. Siobhan Blast Checks, a new program goes live this week on Saturday. And Siobhan will put the name of her new Facebook group in the comments now because I'm finding problems pronouncing it. I think it's Crea. But as I say, Siobhan will put a link in the Facebook page at the moment. And if you go to her page, her new page, and join, there's a full list of a schedule, and I mean a full schedule of people who will be on Siobhan's show over the next 3-4 weeks. To talk about how they had got to believing in Scottish independence or being campaigners for Scottish independence or whatever topic it is they decide to choose for that day. Okay, and I've just been messaged by James Cassidy, who has asked me to promote a petition in the Scottish Parliament which would have a law introduced to say that any elected MSP or councillor who walks the floor and leaves a party to go to another party, then that triggers a by-election. Now, it's something I've been trumpeting about for a long time. If you walk the floor, there should be a by-election because you were elected in for that party by the people. Very few people are elected as independents, and they're generally elected on single policies. So if you're elected for a party and you leave that party, it should trigger a by-election. I agree with that one. So at the end of the show, I will put a link up to the Scottish Government's petitions page on my Facebook page. And if you guys, if you agree with this, that there should be a by-election if somebody leaves a party after an election, then please sign the petition. Okay, right, let's get this news review underway. Okay, Wednesday started with a mixed bag in the rags. Most of it scandal of one sort or another. Right, the one that wasn't scandal, speculation or voting in favour of strike action by nurses. Well, we know what the outcome of that was. Okay. Post office IT scandal. We spoke about that yesterday. This is where the dodgy IT system given to postmasters, seen thousands of postmasters done for fraud. Okay, and we have Williamson forced to resign. And that's in most of the other rags. And in his resignation letter, he said he didn't want to be the distraction from the good work the government has been doing. Well, I covered the last 12 years of bloody Tory governments yesterday. You know, and I asked you if you can come up with anything good that this Tory government's done in the last 12 years to stick it in the comments. Didn't see anything in the comments. All right. Hey, what? Some of the tabloids went on Hancock Enters the Jungle. There was also a stew shooter, a white poppy in Holyrood. I believe the poppy had the S in the middle of it, actually. But we went through that one yesterday and all. And Jack defers knighthood to remain in Commons. We'll get a wee bit more of that when we get to the Punch and Judy show, which is Prime Minister's Questions. All right. Okay, moving on. Wednesday start here in Scotland with a Pravda on the NHS meltdown. It gets worse as the results of the nurses' ballot for strike action comes in. Right, the cuckoos in the nest are calling for Humza Yousaf's head on a pole, and they also demand the Scottish Government pay up, even though they know the Scottish Government has a fixed budget, and that's stretched to its limit because it's not been adjusted for inflation by the Treasury in Westminster. And they also know that the problems with not being able to pay is Westminster won't adjust for inflation, so the Scottish Government has higher costs. Throw in inflation and its effect on procurement, and then throw in the high cost of energy and the energy crisis, and the Scottish budget's stretched as far as it can go. All right, so it could be really bad in the NHS this winter. It's already bad for various reasons, which I spoke about already, but it could get worse. Anyway, there's a Davy says here. Davy says to the Scottish Government, just pay the nurses what they want. Send the bill to the Treasury. Yeah. It's not as if our oil and gas shouldn't be earning enough to cover this stuff. It's no our fault there's no tax in it, but we'll get a wee bit more of that as we get into the broadcast. Okay. Right, let's move on. Also, Wednesday, Project Fear is in full swing. Scotland won't be allowed to join the EU because our debt to GDP is too high, and our fiscal deficit is also high, apparently. Now, these numbers are in fact based on the GERS figures, and we all know the GERS figures are crap. 188 estimates, and then there's the fiscal adjustments for what they claim is what they call administration charges. 5 billion last time I looked. Anyway, the EU rules say that debt to GDP shouldn't exceed 3%. The GERS bollock says that our GDP is at 12 debt to GDP is at 12.6%, and our UK's is at 6.1%. Total rubbish, of course. The EU are, of course, rewriting the fiscal rules for member states at this point in time, and the reason for that is because of COVID. The lowest debt to GDP out there at the moment is 20% on average. So the EU is having to rewrite its fiscal position. So all this crap about they won't accept is because of extraordinary debt. The other thing is, we don't have extraordinary debt, but we'll get to that wee bit in a minute. So Project Fear is well underway. Last week we would be forced to join the euro. This week we're too poor to be in the EU. So last week our currency, London Marine currency, or using the pound for a short period to launch Marine currency, wouldn't be acceptable to Europe. We have to join the euro. What a bollocks, of course. Dave and I will talk a wee bit about the exchange rate mechanism and how you go about joining the euro. And this afternoon's to Davies broadcast. Okay, so funny stuff, except expect more each week as they try to make leaving the UK look like a bad idea. So we're going to get the EU doesn't want you, the EU doesn't want you, you don't meet this criteria, you don't meet that criteria. Most of it will be made up, believe me. And if I can keep them tappy, I'll keep using form as bollocks. Okay. The other part of the article, which is in the Pravda, the BBC, you can check it on BBC Scotland website. It also appeared in some of the London tabloids, some of the London broadsheets, sorry. And the other part of the article says, if the EU does allow us to be members, then they would treat us like they treated Greece. Apparently, they would impose rigid fiscal restrictions on us. Davy says it's all bollocks. Scotland will start independence with little to no debt. Why? Assets and liabilities will be worked out, Historical contributions will also be taken into consideration, and joint ownership of assets. Onshore assets are easy to resolve. Overseas territories, embassies, military bases, they're different matters, because in the Treaty of Union, anything that's no on these shores is split 50-50 between Scotland and England. So by the time you take in the value of the embassies around the world, the military bases around the world, the overseas territories, then Scotland will be probably owed a few quid. They won't want to pay, so we'll walk away debt-free. This was all pointed out with Professor Richard Murphy, but you can go and look that up yourself on YouTube. The video itself is how much would Scotland owe, and he works it all out and turns around and says, actually, England will probably owe his money. So there you have it. Every last bit of it is bollocks. Okay, moving on. Wednesday, and the Gender Recognition Reform Bill is back in the spotlight as it's heading for its second reading. All right, MSPs have laid down 150 amendments, so it will be a long couple of days, but politicians like that sort of thing. And the other thing about so many amendments being laid down is it means that politicians are actually paying attention. They've read the legislation that's proposed, and they've decided that they don't like it, and they're laying down amendments. That's all part of the process. That's what we call good scrutiny of legislation. So, for once, the cuckoos in the nest are actually doing something right. Okay, now, as I say, I don't really get myself involved in the Gender Recognition Reform Bill. 22 other countries are using the same system, seems to be working well, and most of them are some of the most, what you would call socially advanced countries like Finland, Norway, Denmark, that sort of thing, New Zealand. All right, Iceland. So, moving on. Wednesday, it's announced in the Pravda that Archbishop Mario Conti has died. All right, now I'm not a religious man, but, you know, this guy, he devoted 60 years of his life to his congregation or his community, whatever way you want to put it. Now, no matter what it is you do in life, this guy just happened to be a priest. But to put 60 years into your community, no matter what, that's worthy of note. Same as when I did the piece on the councillor for Dundee, who had served the community for 50 odd years. So there you go. All right, these things are worthy of note. Okay, moving on. Wednesday, lunchtime rolls round, and PMQs or Punch and Judy is on. There were a couple of questions before Starmer went head-to-head with Sunak. One from Labour, demanding that no one who'd received a fixed penalty notice for attending Downing Street parties during lockdown should get a seat in the Lords. Sunak was non-committal. All right. The other from a Tory demanding Westminster exploits Welsh assets, meaning the Celtic Sea. Don't want to put wind turbines up in the Rain Sea or on the Rain land, but what this Tory wants is the exploitation of Wales's assets for the benefit of the UK. It's also firing a shot across the bow of Scotland. They say, we'll just build wind farms in Wales rather than use your electricity after independence. Oh, bollocks, of course. But anyway, the real pantomime starts when Sunak and Starmer go head-to-head. So here we go. Starmer asked Sunak about appointing Billy Boy Williamson to cabinet. Sunak says he didn't know the bully was a bully. Starmer said, aye, you did. Sunak said, I've launched an investigation. Starmer said, well, we know you know. You surround yourself with bullies because you're feared they'll turn on you. You're a coward, and that's why you're not holding a general election. Sunak says, I'll go on with fixing the mess we've made because I'm the only one that can. Nah. Basically saying Starmer's no plan as usual. Right, Starmer went on the oil and gas levy, which I've reported on. It didn't happen, folks. It was smoke and mirrors, right? Starmer points out the 90p and the pound relief for investment in the North Sea, or investment in oil and gas around these shores. And he tells us all that the windfall tax lie has actually cost the public purse 26 billion quid. So the windfall tax didn't really happen. And to cover the cost, they borrowed 26 billion quid. Mental. Sunak tells Starmer we can't tax the big oil and gas giants or they'll no invest. And if they don't invest, there'll be no jobs, dummy. That tells Starmer he didn't understand business. But hey, if they want the oil and gas, they'll pay their taxes. They do in Norway, they do everywhere bloody else. Right, Starmer laughed and challenged Sunak to tax oil and gas giants, big businesses, and close the non-dom tax status. Another personal swipe at Sunak because his wife's non-dom status, and he says that's what Labour will do. What a crap, of course. Sunak shot back that he basically blah blah blah. We'll get a wee bit better what Sunak shot back. He basically called the Starmer a lefty, a left-wing sympathiser, if you like. But we'll get a wee bit more detail in that. All right, further on. Next up was Blackford, and he went on Alistair Jack and the denial of Scottish democracy. He basically says Jack's getting a knighthood for betraying the people of Scotland and their democracy. Gets right out of the tap of Sunak's seed, gets right out of the tap of Jack's seed. Sunak says no comment on Jack getting a knighthood. Blackford then says Ian Doubles down on the democracy denying Jack and his treachery against his own people. He actually mentions it there because the Secretary of State of Scotland strokes to stand up for the people of Scotland. Jack's not doing that. He's denying the democracy of the people of Scotland, as well as Sunak and the rest of them. You know, Sunak replies that he wants to work closely with the Scottish government so that Scotland's two governments, meaning the colonial one in Edinburgh and the imperial one in Westminster, he wants them to work well together. All right. He also says he's meeting Nicola in Blackpool today, neutral territory. He doesn't want to get booed by the Scots. You know, anyway, the minute he said that, the Pravda, I don't know if you've noticed, folks, but the Pravda were right on it. They were talking about up here in Scotland that Nicola Sturgeon was going to meet Sunak for crisis talks about the cost of living crisis at the British Irish Council in Blackpool. But they also then said she's going to make demands. She's going to make her demands for another referendum. This is a clever piece of propaganda, and it's demonising the First Minister, and they do it with the SNP all the time. They talk about the SNP's obsession with independence. Well, actually, it's their forte. It's what they exist for. But more importantly, when they talk about things like her demand for a referendum, it's not her demand for a referendum. It's the people of Scotland's demand for a referendum. The people of Scotland voted for the SNP Green government on a mandate to hold a referendum. This is what we're talking about with propaganda. Trying to turn the people. It's her obsession. It's their obsession. It's not what you voted for, even though it was what they voted for. That's propaganda. Right, anyway. That was basically Prime Minister's for you, right? Just another Punch and Judy show. So stay tuned for another episode of this crap for the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers next Wednesday. Okay. Right, moving on. Wednesday, back here in Scotland, and the Scottish Government's back in the courts over the Gender Recognition on Public Boards Act. Yep, there is such a thing. Anywho, the Stooshes over the Act lumping transgender people in the same category as women, apparently. Anyway, Wadey Hill tells the government to go away and reword it so that there can be a clear definition and people don't get conflated with the two issues. Basically, the Act was worded back badly, or the rewriting of the Act was worded back badly. All right. So the Scottish Government goes away and rewrites it and rewords it. And anyway, the group that took them to court in the first place, they're called For Women Scotland. And they still didn't like the rewording. So back to Lady Hill they go. The Scottish Government said, just throw it out, will you? Anyway, who are Women for Scotland? They claim to be a non-for-profit party political organisation who work with central government, meaning Westminster first. Then they work with devolved governments, meaning Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland. And the group's aims is to promote equality for women and children in Scotland. If they're promoting equality for women and children in Scotland, what are they doing in Westminster? What are they doing in Wales? What are they doing in Northern Ireland? Are they promoting women's rights for these countries, or is it just women's rights for Scotland? Is there something no right with the way that women are treated here in Scotland? Is it different from how it's done elsewhere in the world? Anyway, what is the aims of these people? It piqued my interest. All right. So I've had a wee look to see who they are. I've got a wee bit further to go yet, right enough. But anyway, as far as I can tell, on their Wikipedia page, they're standing up for, they're standing against the Gender Recognition Reforms Bill. They're stood against the Equalities and Public Boards Bill. We also find out that their accountant, who's from Airdrie, I'm not going to name her at this point in time because it's only allegations. She is up in court, but anyway, she's up in court for alleged hate crimes over homophobic and transphobic tweets. So that's their accountant. Okay. Now the directors for Women for Scotland are Trina Budge, Susan Smith, and Marion Calder. Now, for some reason, I seem to know two of these people. I've seen to run across them. I can't remember where, but it'll come to me. It's interesting that they're based in Airdrie or roundabout this North Lanarkshire area, because this is where Scotland and the Union has its head as well. And we've had some really foul campaigns go on through roundabout Airdrie and Shorts and things like that. So I'll do a wee bit more digging because I like that sort of thing. I'll do a wee bit more digging into this one. All right. Because I want to know what the motives of this group is and who's funding them. But that's only logical. It's just the way it is in Scotland. There's a lot of dark money sloshing about. There's a lot of dark money groups subverting Scottish justice, the Scottish Parliament, the opinions of the Scottish people. So you've got to go on your toes when these things raise their ugly heads and try and find out who's funding these people, what their actual objectives are. Is there an ulterior motive? That's the stage we're at here in Scotland. Right, moving on Wednesday in Dundas Road in England, the number of councils taking the Home Office to court over the hotel scheme has gone up to 6. I expect most Tory councils in Northern Red Wall Brexit voting, or former Red Wall Brexit voting councils, will join in on the wheeze. So what's it all about? The councils claim that hotels are being turned into asylum seeker hostels without the necessary planning permission. And they want an injunction from the courts to stop the practice of sending asylum seekers into hotels in their areas, because they're not there for a visit, they're there for the long term. That means it's not a hotel, it's a hostel or something else. Okay. Now, this is the UK government's own fault, you see. And this started under Theresa May, the hostile environment. It goes back further than that, the hostile environment. It goes back to before Brexit, but let's take the hostile environment under Theresa May. You know, they've been peddling xenophobic crap to the people down there for ages now. And as I pointed out yesterday, up here in Scotland, the Cuckoos and the SUs, the NHS of political football, down there, it's asylum. That gets a bit more interesting going on, by the way. But, you know, if the UK government has got a hostile attitude to these people, it's going to trickle down to their councils and to the people who live in these areas. So it could well be that concentration camps will be built for the people coming across the channel. Because if they get an injunction, a court injunction to stop the UK government for putting them into hotels in people's areas, then these people get nowhere to go. Except for into military facilities, maybe ex-jails and things like So, concentration camps. They need somebody to put them up. They can't put them into the general populace. Absolutely shocking attitude. But the government is reaping what it sowed. They have been peddling xenophobic ideas down that road since before Brexit. And they were peddling to a mainly white population, believe it or not, because England is still predominantly white. Not quite as white as Scotland, but it's still predominantly white. And they've been peddling hate of the other to these people. And they keep turning to the political football, which is asylum seekers, every time. There's a problem with things like the economy, interest rates rising, that sort of thing. What they're actually doing is kicking asylum seekers, turning the eyes of the people away. All right. So there you go. Right, moving on. Wednesday, and Putin withdraws from Kherson. Zelensky says they will work their way carefully towards the city, as you don't give up captured land as a gift. So apparently Putin's drawn back, but Zelensky's a wee bit more cautious about it. He's a wee bit dodgy about it, and he's right to be so. Slow and steady advance into the city, and be very, very careful as you're picking your way in. You don't, when you're in a war situation like that, especially when you're supposedly the stronger side, i.e. Russia, you don't just up and leave a territory, especially one as important as the port city of Kherson. So Zelensky's right to be careful. Also Wednesday, and most of the results for the American midterms are in. Biden's happy with the results, which sees the Senate more or less deadlocked. There's a couple more to be decided, and very little movement in the House of the House of Representatives. So it looks as if Biden didn't take a kicking in the midterms. That's not going to please Trump, but Trump will bluff it to say it was a great result to try and get nominated as a contender for the 2024 US presidency election, US president's election. Now, Donald has been threatening other potential runners to stay out of his road. The big beast, big dog, Donald, he thinks he's the guy for the job. We'll see how the Republicans take it. Right, also Wednesday, despite court injunctions preventing protest on approach roads around London, including the M25, climate activists continue to protest. Let's see how far this will go. Will these people actually be fined? Will they have restrictions on them, put on them as they're arrested, to say they've got to report to a police station every day, which this injunction can have them do? Or will any of them go to the jail? It's a dangerous place down that road these days when peaceful protest is curtailed. Their human rights are being stripped away from them. And this one's a cracker, folks. Get ready for a laugh, all right? Don't need to watch the time. Also, Wednesday, down that road, to add to the Home Office's woe, the Home Office has been asked for the numbers of illegal immigrants that have come to the UK. Now remember, we've just had a debate in the Commons where the Tories, one after another, stood up and said, illegal immigrant, illegal immigrant, illegal immigration, illegal immigration. Anyway, the Home Office has been asked for the numbers, and they haven't given the numbers, all right? They've refused. Anyway, there's been a change in the laws, as you know, with the Nationalities and Border Bill in June, all right? And in the Nationalities and Border Bill in June, if you knowingly come to the UK without papers, you're coming illegally without permission, then you can be arrested and up to 4 years in jail, followed by deportation. All right. Now, the Home Office won't tell us how many illegal immigrants have entered the UK, right? 27,000 people have come across the channel in small boats since June. Okay. Now, the guy who was doing the investigation and asked for freedom of information for the Home Office decided because the Home Office wouldn't cooperate, he would go and speak to the police in Kent. in Kent how many people have been arrested under the new nationalities bill, and the police in Kent said, none. We hauled them out of borders and immigration. So they went to borders and immigration and asked how many had been arrested, and they said, can't I tell you? You need to go and ask the CPS. So they went and asked the Crown Prosecution Service, and they said, you can't tell you. They can't tell you. You'll need to go back to the Home Office. So the guy gets back to the Home Office. They won't tell him how many have been done for illegal immigration, but what they do is they tell him how many people in 2022 so far who have been done with breaching immigration law. Get ready for this, folks. Remember, the number crossing the channel was 27,000. Out of that 27,000, none have been done for a illegal entry into the UK illegal immigration. There have been 244 breaches of immigration rules or laws, 722 of which were for facilitating illegal immigration, leaving a potential 142 illegal immigrants. Not necessarily 142, but a potential 142 illegal immigrants since June. 27,000 people have come across the channel, a potential 142 illegal immigrants. So when you hear a Tory politician say illegal immigrant, say you mean asylum seeker. Illegal, and quote these figures. There's only been 244 people done in breach of immigration laws. 72 of them for facilitating illegal immigration. So let's say these 72 facilitated the other 142, potentially 142 illegal immigrants since June. The rest are legitimate asylum seekers or refugees, whatever way you want to put it. All right. So that's a cracker. Absolute cracker. 27,000 people in, only a potential 142 of them are illegal immigrants. Wow. And we just the whole debate in the Commons on illegal immigration. This is what we talk about when we talk about smoke and mirrors and propaganda. They shout illegal immigrants. The white population down there turns on these poor people who have done nothing wrong except for seek asylum. They're running from war, persecution, maybe even poverty. We'll get Tory MPs starting up in the Commons doing there. If you go to my timeline, you see an Owen Jones piece on this idea who wants a Human Rights Act scrapped. He wants to ignore Article 14 of the Human Rights Act, the Convention on the Right of the Refugee or the Right of the Asylum Seeker. And he wants anybody landing on these shores charged and deported. Absolutely mental. Talk about international law breakers. Oof! Right, quick run through the papers, folks, because this is getting on. And FMQs. I said the FMQs yesterday, but it is FMQs today. Okay, so let's have a quick look and see what the rags have to say today. I hope you found the topics I picked to talk about interesting. I hope you found them informative. And I hope you found the delivery entertaining. Okay, the Herald has catastrophe as nurses vote to strike before Christmas. The Scotsman has nurses vote to strike for first time in their history. The Record has NHS on the brink. The Eye has nurses to stage hospital strikes before the end of the year. The Times has Russian occupiers announce military retreat from Kherson. And Trump blames wife and aides for midterms. Well, there you go. And nurses to strike within weeks. The Daily Telegraph has nurses stage first national walkout. And when they're talking about a national walkout, they're not talking about a national walkout. They're talking about UK-wide walkout. The Scottish Daily Mail has 740,000 Scots on waiting lists. Worst A&E times on record. A GP crisis. We know a GP. If we've got a GP crisis, they're in fucking trouble down that road. Real trouble. Go look up the amount of GPs per capita in Scotland to the GPs per capita in England. In Scotland it's 10, in England it's something like 6.7. And now nurses are to strike. How can SNP Humza Yousaf survive as a Minister for Catastrophe? He's not a Minister for Catastrophe. He's a Minister seen out a disaster, which has been the running down your NHSs for years. And when I say NHS, I mean England, Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland. by central government who refused to fund England's NHS, meaning that block grants are cut and funding for the NHS Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland is also cut, meaning that if you want to improve these services, you've got to diminish other services. Problem is, these idiots in these papers think we don't know how the bloody system works. And this is how they get to the knuckle daggers, the actual faking idiots who won't take the time to have a look and see who's running their schools, who's running the roads, who's running the railways, who's faking up the economy. The Scottish Daily Express has nurses strike, Hope assumes that is to blame. No! We've got an ongoing pandemic. We've had 2.5 to nearly 3 years of bloody thing so far. We've got a backlog. We've got hospital staff having to isolate. We've got nobody in health and social care because of bloody Brexit. We've got budget cuts coming from Westminster. And apparently it's poor Holmes' fault. You know, it's so exciting all your life. But that's the plan here, folks, to undermine the Scottish Parliament. Turn our eyes away from the fact that the problems are coming from the fact that we don't have control of our own finances, we don't have control of our own resources, and they feckin' idiots next door couldn't run a Manoj! The National has BBC research on online abuse related to fatally flawed. We know that. They just make figures up as they go along. Anyway, a bunch of academics took the figures that the BBC had put out there the other day, looked at them and went, this is pish. Deeply flawed is a polite way of putting it. The Metro has food bank crisis point. This is the Newsweek yesterday. I didn't cover it because I couldn't read it. Fucking heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking. Anyway, 320,000 first-time users in 6 months. 1 in 5 are in work. 40% of food parcels going to kids, and milk is a luxury item. Maggie Thatcher, the milk snatcher. All over again. I've done the reports on the poverty, folks. 1 in 3 in England, kids going to bed hungry. That's not counting their parents skipping meals to feed them, or their grannies riding the bus, or granny going hungry. The amount of cases of malnutrition in the NHS is right across the UK are skyrocketing. Unbelievable. And we've got the best performing when it comes to poverty here and all. You've got 1 in 3 in England, 1 in 4 in Northern Ireland and Wales, 1 in 5 in Scotland. So there isn't as much poverty in Scotland what there is elsewhere. But 1 in 5 of our children going to bed hungry is 1 in 5 too many. We can do very little about it because every time we try, Westminster fucking clovers us. Look at the child benefit that we put in place up here. What did Westminster do in response? They took away the £20 uplift that they give benefit claimants. And the pandemic, basically, if you're a single parent, the Scottish government, if you're a parent with 1 kid, the Scottish government gives you 1 hand, Westminster takes away with another. Whenever we talk about things like mitigating the bedroom tax and all that pish, taking money out of our public services. Absolutely mental that the people can't see what's going on right under their nose. The people in England are worse, they can't see a bloody thing. Right, if we got a star today, what have we got? Nah, we've no star for you today, just as well. I can't be bothered with Hancock in the jungle. I really can't. So there you have it. That's the rags for the day, folks. Okay. And that's the show for the day, folks. Remember, if you're on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification button. You'll get notification when Davey and I get out. Talking about Davey and I get out. Davey and I will go out at 4 p.m. this afternoon for the 2-day me show. Okay. Now, remember, folks, Project Fear is really underway. It really is now. They're trying to tell us the EU don't want us, we're too poor for the EU to let us in, all sorts of bollocks. They really are at scraping the bolting in the barrel now. Desperation is setting in. Anyway, eyes on the prize. Learn you how you gonies and get out there and win hearts and minds. We'll talk about how you gonies. I just countered everything they said about the EU there. It didn't take long. Alright. Now, Support the independent broadcasters, support Broadcasting Scotland, Independent Live, Indie Live Radio, Caledon Media, Trues Radio. Support the iScot magazine, support the national newspaper, support independent bloggers and bloggers. And if they have a crowdfunder going on and you have a couple of shekels to spare, throw them in the pot. These guys do great work, as you know, we don't want your money. If you like what we do, then if you're on Facebook, wait 5 minutes to get over there and change the video to public before you share it. And if you're on YouTube, please share it across your social media platforms and get out there and we can keep people informed. All right. Now, remember, a couple of bits of guidance left. Follow them. I know I keep prattling on about this stuff, but winter's coming in, and normal winter respiratory diseases are about to enter the fray, and the NHS has, at the moment, has got 800 or 900 people in hospital with COVID. We'll get bed blocking because of Brexit. You know this stuff. Anyway, so face covering in closed public spaces. Clean hands and surfaces regularly. If you're not feeling well, mask up, social distance, show a bit of social consciousness. And if you are a health and social care worker and you're still using the NHS lateral flow test, please submit your results to NHS Scotland. You guys live in our community, and it's important that we track this through the community, especially as the winter goes on. Okay, you have a nice day. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all again. Ciao for now.